I'm going to review lesson 78, Let Miracles Replace All Grievances. So to get to the bottom of what he's talking about here, we're going to back up and look at the premise of the course. The central lesson the course was sent to teach is that there is no world. There is no phenomenal world. The body is in the mind is not in the body. The world is an illusion or a dream. It has no substance. It's the same as shadows on a wall. So there's nothing outside of the mind. The experience of the world is based on a decision that's made, and that decision is to believe in separation. The belief in separation produces in the mind overwhelming guilt for having destroyed oneness, turned your back on God, and decided to be an autonomous, separated self. The way that decision is maintained is by grievances. So what is the mechanism that allows for that? So make a decision to believe in separation, now experience yourself as an individual, feel that guilt, and the overwhelming guilt causes the mind to project it outside of the mind. Well, there's nothing outside of the mind. So the mind makes up a world, fills it with bodies, 8 billion people, and the grievances are the attempt to get rid of the guilt within us by seeing it in something outside of us. So grievances are a defense against the truth. They're a projection of the guilt inside of us. We take that guilt, project it onto an image seemingly outside of us in the dream or illusion in an effort to avoid the experience of guilt. So when the person you hold a grievance against can be your savior if you choose to forgive that person. And forgiveness is looking beyond that image, seeing the truth that the image is designed to hide from you. So we're trying to maintain the idea of separation, and we've buried under layers of defenses, our defenses, what the truth is. So what we've done is we have created images and shadow figures. Everyone in our lives is an image that we value more than the truth. So the truth is that the mind that thought it made the images in anger never left home. The Son of God never wandered away from heaven, destroyed God and oneness. But that truth is concealed by the dream. So within the dream, when we experience our individual lives, we're blind to what God's Son is, who God's Son is, that we are a part of God. Our grievances hide the light of that truth. So we find ourselves in a world, somebody does something around us that we don't like, or we've decided we don't like what they do. We've judged it as bad. We've judged a person as bad. And now we hold a grievance. That grievance says, you are guilty. You, thing outside of me, are guilty, and it's not me. And it becomes a block to the truth. So there's a line in the course that says, something like, nothing so daunting as perception of form has terrified God's Son and makes him think he's abandoned by God forever. So we perceive these forms, we find them guilty, and until we make a choice to forgive and see beyond our grievances, we seemingly are in a prison that we can't escape. And we want to hold on to our grievances, not for what the others have done. We want to hold on to our grievances to maintain our dream of separation. It's another way of not wanting to wake up. That's an essential thing for every course student to understand. We don't want to wake up. If we wanted to wake up, we would. We are a part of oneness. We are a part of an infinite, joyful oneness that is the only truth. So we're making a decision, and the course is trying to help us see your decision is not making you happy. And maybe that's apparent sometimes, but not all the time, because the dream always seems to hold out some hope that there is something here that will make us happy. There is something outside of us that will bring peace and joy to us that we couldn't find within. And we don't want to look within. We want to find that outside of us because in our wrong mind, we love our individuality. We treasure our autonomy. We cherish the hateful little self that we made, and we don't want to know the grandeur. We want to know the littleness. So when we're doing the lessons, every lesson basically teaches the same thing. It teaches about what we really are. It's not what our little self is. The bodies that we see moving about in the world, mine or anyone else's, that is not the Son of God. The Son of God is not an image. It is not a dream figure. He is not a character in a movie that we are watching. The Son of God is a part of oneness. He never left home. He never wandered lonely and afraid and guilty and angry and terrified. So what this lesson is teaching us to do is when we encounter someone in the world and we are tempted to place the guilt within us onto them, project it out and see it in them because of whatever they have thought, said, or done that we witnessed, whatever judgment we decided to make about them, we can see past that. We don't have to be blinded by the worldly judgments we seem to make as bodies. And when we're willing to look past that, that is the miracle. What does the miracle do? It shows us who the dreamer is. If we can look past a grievance, we can't be the isolated, tiny, nothingness self that we believe we are. This is a statement about who we really are. So when he talks about taking the role assigned to us as part of God's plan for salvation and not our own, temptation falls away when we allow each one we meet to save us and refuse to hide his light behind our grievances. So to everyone we meet or even think about, we can turn them into a savior by seeing beyond the grievance that we chose instead of the truth, because there's nothing there. It's just like in a sleeping dream. So the way the workbook lessons train our mind is to just back up from our judgments, and say, I'm going to question what I've decided. We question what we decided about another person, that they were bad, that they were sinful, that they were guilty, they did something terrible. When we question those judgments, ultimately the Course is training our minds to question not just what they are, but what we are. As we withdraw our judgments about other people, we're doing that with ourselves. We can't see others in a way that we don't see ourselves. So what I believe about you, I believe about me. If I believe you're a body in a world limited and vulnerable, I believe that about myself. But if I believe beyond that judgment about you is a truth, is a blazing light, I will believe it about myself. And I will start to question whether I am this body in a world. And that is my reality. So he's trying to get us to question reality. What's reality? Who is his son? It is not a body. God's son is not a body. God's son is a part of him in oneness. He is everywhere at all times. It is a oneness that has the positive quality of joy and love. It is the truth. And who is the person that we hold a grievance against? That is a variable. At any moment in time, it could shift and change because egos aren't stable. In one moment, we can seem to hate one person and love another, and then it switches. So it's being an ego is an unstable, identifying with the ego thought system turns you into what you identify with in your perception, and joining with the ego thought system is the most unstable system you can be a part of, because it can be thrown off balance by absolutely anything that seems to be in this world, because it has one goal: to maintain the dream and see guilt outside of itself. And what does the dream do? What did the mind conjure to support that? Lots of opportunities to blame other things. And it's not that we can stop doing that. We need to watch ourselves do that to move up the ladder. No one wants to give up their own identity. We're afraid of a loss of self. So the workbook has kind of more pure reflections of truth about what we are, whereas the text jumps around levels. Sometimes the text addresses us as though we are bodies in a world, and other times it's more, I'll call it a pure reflection of truth, that where it identifies us as not bodies. We are not egos. We're not what we believe we are. It talks about the ego as a separate thing to dissociate us from it, but it is our own self-image until we choose again. I hope this was helpful. It's always a good idea to go back to the metaphysical chart so that whenever we're reading the course, we remember this course is not addressing itself to a body in a world. It's addressing itself to a mind that sleeps, to wake up that mind so that it remembers what it is. Thank you for listening.